Okay, welcome everybody to our third podcast of the year. And for those of you who've actually seen the podcast, and if you haven't, what have you been doing? They've had some really amazing feedback. We thought it was going to really take off. It's taken off a lot more than we thought it was going to do, because we're just talking about things that are important to Luton people, to normal people like ourselves. And today we are talking about finding your Zen. Now, it's going to be called lots of things for different people: calmness, clarity, reflection, and it's wherever it means to you. So, without further ado, I'm going to get straight into talking to my amazing, calm, reflective guests who are going to talk about how they find their happy place, their calm place. And it's only fair that I kind of bring in our wonderful guest, Dawn, who's going to quickly introduce herself before I fire my first question at her. So, Dawn, over to you and welcome.
I could say that might have been a mistake because I do chat quite a lot. My name's Dawn Hewitt, and I've lived in Luton now since I was 18. And as I'm past 60, although that's quite a long time, I run CHUMS, the Children's Mental Health and Emotional Wellbeing Service for Bedfordshire and Luton, and we're delivering services in Cambridge and Peterborough currently as well. I'm also a wife and a mother, and now a new grandmother in lockdown. So that's me.
Oh, wow. I think you kind of you summed up something I was going to say in terms of, you know, I'll just put it out there. I've got quite a lot of female friends. I'm blessed to have a good female circle, and I always feel that with my female friends, they have to be super in everything. They have to be a super daughter. They have to be a super mom and a super. And us guys, we can float in and float out, and at the life. There's Amin is shaking, nodding his head in agreement. And there's a lot of cognitive load. That's the term I use. That I feel that they are under. So. Dawn, bearing in mind all that superhero powers that you've got and the roles and responsibilities that you have to have, what does finding your calm mean to you, and how do you find it?
Mhm. And I think that's a really great question. And I'm sure that the other guests today will probably have some similar thoughts. Is that at times it can be very difficult to find your calm and your peace, particularly having lived through the experience we all have over the past 12 months. And I've also had the challenging experience of shielding as well. But for me, finding my calm and peace is just almost giving myself permission to park everything that's in my head and going on in my world and take some time out for myself. And that might be just even having a bath, which is something that I really appreciate if I've been feeling a little bit too stressed about things. It's just about thinking about finding the balance in my life sometimes when it seems unbalanced. Quite often I just even read a magazine or something like that just to take me out of what's going on in my head. And my children, when they were growing up, always would tell how I was feeling, depending on how many magazines I brought home to read after I'd stopped off on the way home. If there was more than one, then they knew there was a problem and they'd keep out of the way. I really like tapping into my creative side. So I like sewing and things like that, which I have to say I've had my sewing machine out for the first time in about a decade since we've been in lockdown as well. So for me, I've also got quite a strong faith, and that does kind of give me balance, I feel, as well in my life. So there are lots of things, but I think it is important that I remind myself sometimes I need to do those things because sometimes we get caught up in everything and don't give ourselves permission to take time out.
No, that's really interesting here. Thank you, because I think you mentioned about having. I'm going to show my northern roots here and say about having a bath as opposed to a bath, etc. But I'm one of the few guys who actually has a bath quite regularly. The rest of my family don't. But I think when I've had a tough day, that's my
Yeah.
warm space. I can spend a long time watching Netflix and actually reading books, and I can spend a good couple of hours doing it. And you mentioned, have you recently become a grandmother? Did you say? Did I
Yes,
hear that right?
yes.
Well, do you know what?
In
Because
lockdown, yeah.
well, congratulations for a
Thank
start.
you.
But I think what I got from what you were saying, it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And for me, that zen or that moment of calmness is when I hold a newborn baby. Have you ever held a newborn baby? Those are the moments where you are completely present
Mm,
in that time. There's nothing. You're not thinking about yesterday. You're not thinking about tomorrow. Have you ever? It's fascinating. I think I've
yeah.
noticed that's when I'm 100% in my Zen-like state when I hold a newborn baby. That's just my kind of definition of it. I mean, Luton Sixth Form College is equivalent to the GQ model of today. How are you, I mean? And do you have regular soaks in the bath as well? Do you use a face
Yeah.
mask? 'Cause I know I do.
Yes, I'm very, very well. How are you?
I am very well. Tell me how you create your sense of calm and when do you reflect in the day?
Yes, so to me, Zen means inner peace, spiritual upliftment, and personal growth, as well as tranquility and calmness. Specifically, this stems from my connection with the Islamic faith, and which has allowed me to channel my energy accordingly by being aware of my thoughts and my feelings, understanding what I am feeling and why I am feeling that way, and which in turn has enabled me to come to terms with any difficult situations that have confronted me in my life.
Wow. Okay. And that sounds like a journey to me. So,
Yeah,
how did you get to what you've just described?
I would say that there's been lots of hurdles, growing up, and going through adversity has allowed me to instill this sort of resilience within me. And then I think with all the craziness of life, you have to find your happy place or your calm place. And I would say that for me would be my faith, the Islamic faith, which I obviously quite keep it quite close to my heart. So yeah, that's how I've kind of now become quite endeared to the religion.
And you talk about the faith, and quite clearly, is that is really, really important to you. In
Yeah,
what way has it helped you become more reflective, do you think?
I would say that I'm able to be present within the moment. Sometimes we kind of become so distracted with life and what's going on around us that we're not able to give ourselves any time. And I think just giving yourself that time makes a massive change in general, because you're able to concentrate on yourself and your family and what makes you happy rather than focusing on what goes on around us, if that makes sense.
No, no, it makes absolute sense. And when when you talk to, I talk to, to my guy mates, etc. And
Yeah.
I think as we've got older, we started talking a little bit more about our feelings. But in the early days, it
Mm,
wasn't quite the case. There'd be many time I would be coming back after spending quite a long time with my mates who I've known for 30 years,
yeah.
and my sort of kids would ask me, so what did you talk about? Did you talk about the schools that the kids are going to, or what? No, nothing like that. I don't know what guys they're talking at a very superficial level, or it's only now that we started talking about feeling
Mm.
upset or feeling disappointed. Do you feel there's a bit more work that we could be doing in terms of working with guys to talk more about their feelings, or do you think we're in an okay place in that regard? What's your view?
I personally feel that there's a lot that needs to change in the grassroots levels within homes, especially. I think um, a lot of guys are told from a young age that they can't express their feelings, and that maybe feelings are attached to gender, which isn't the case. I mean, feelings are genderless. It doesn't matter what gender you are. And I think suppressing males and men and boys and making them feel like if they express their feelings, then it's a quote unquote girly thing to do. That in itself, to me, doesn't sit well. And I think that there needs to be that dialogue and that communication that has to take place within, gatherings, family gatherings, or within events and things like that, because I don't think it's spoken about enough. And guys feel that if they do speak about their emotions, they're going to be, I don't know, judged or something negative. They're going to have some sort of negative feedback coming from their friends. But I think if one person starts, another person sees that, they learn from that, and they think, okay, you know what, it is okay to speak about my feelings. I don't have to just speak on a superficial level about just about sports or just about this, that, or the other. Because I feel sometimes guys just speak about things that are completely avoiding themselves. It's more about, oh, what I did or this and that, not how I feel, not what my thoughts are and things like that. You know.
No, that makes sense. And Edyta, I'm just going to bring you in at this point because we talked about how they sort of, you deal with lots of our students, you provide support to, our males and our females. What did you think about what you just heard from both Dawn and Ameen? And also, how do you find your calm place?
So hello. Yeah, I totally agree with both of them. It's very important what Don said and what Amin said, and I can only echo in my own style. So my own Zen, as we know, Zen is a slang for feeling peaceful and relaxed. So my Zen is to trust myself, is to understand that much more important is what I think of myself than what others think of me. So sinking into myself is bringing me to the point where I feel very little. And I think there is no really so many demons around me that can swallow me because I know where I stand. I hope this makes sense and I can visualize that. For example, when I look at a tree, I feel very little and fragile. So I'm grateful I can step on the earth, but I know my place. Does this make sense what I said?
Oh, no, it makes sense. I think I'm writing down because you said something about not worrying about what other people think, and I think that's a big
Mhm.
one. And it took me a long time to, and even now, let's be honest, I still, I think about what other people thinking about me, but it
Of
doesn't
course we
bother
do,
me as
yeah.
much as it used to do when I was maybe a little bit younger. So, any advice that you would give to people listening, where rightly or wrongly they do worry about what other people think about them?
Mhm.
What would be the takeaway top three bits of advice that you would give to someone who's actually not quite found that stage in their lives?
Think what you have to appreciate in your life, who you are in your life, how you find in yourself in a space that it could get really busy. If it is really worth to lose your energy to think what others think of you if you don't even know them. So who you are to yourself, that's how we're looking into mind hygiene. When we breathe in air, we want the air to be clear in our lungs. When we take in thinking, when we take in things into our brain, do we think about the clearance? Our brain could be like a big washing machine, but it's up to us to put the detergent to take the stuff out clean. So that's my view. It may be quite complicated. It may be my way of thinking that originally come from Poland. I live in Luton for 14 years and I'm very much Lutonian. I feel Lutonian. However, I'm Ponglish, so I can see those both sides of thinking. And I hope some of the people who will listen to me, they will understand where I'm trying to come from.
Adita, thank you. I'll be coming back to you guys after, so don't leave too soon. Claire, you've been listening very patiently to us. So, and well, firstly, to tell people who you are. We've known each other for a long time. And after then, any take, I'm not even going to give you a question. Just anything that you feel that you've taken from just listening to these three brilliant people and any thoughts that you might have.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Claire. So I'm Safeguarding Health and Welfare Manager at the college. I've been around for 18 years here, been through many roles, seen many students, seen kind of how students have, in the early sort of 2000s, how teenagers were behaving to how they're behaving now, and can see quite a dramatic change, and kind of the need for my role has expanded. And it's really interesting to hear the variety of perspectives that have come through the professionals today. And I think what I would take away, or I think what I have heard that's missing, is a sense of kind of discipline around this type of work. That if I want to lose weight, I have to eat healthy and go to the gym. If I want to get rid of the cold that I've got to rest and take my medicine. If I want to be in a balanced frame of mind, I've got to do the stuff I don't want to do as well as the stuff that would make me feel comfortable. So, for example, go to the appointments that I need to go to, get the work done that I need to get done, because I could read those magazines, Dawn, all day and be absolutely fine with that. But I know what is good for me is that I need to get my job done, or I need to have the conversations that I need to have, and balancing the uncomfortable parts of life with the comforting that's also necessary. So for me personally, I love being in my comfort zone a little bit too much, but I know how unhealthy that can be for me. I know if I push myself too hard, that's uncomfortable too. And it's finding that middle ground, that balance, that I think is important. So I feel like I'm coming at this sort of question with a bit of a harsher, more disciplined approach. But I think taking action, taking responsibility is a big part for me of feeling calm and feeling in control.
Do you know what? Because sometimes I always feel that maybe I'm a little bit harsh as well, and I think it's a balance. Life is all about balance, isn't it? And I think as I've got older, I've realised that no one is responsible for my happiness apart from me. Really, I spent a lot of time after relying on other people to make me happy, and then I was never going to be happy. So it's inside out. It starts from within first, in my opinion, but then you have to factor in the external kind of factors there as well. So if you, and I'm just conscious of the time here, there will be lots of our young people who will be listening to this who've had a horrible year, 2 years in terms of disruption, in terms of the stuff they've had to deal with at home, and so on and so forth, and their parents who might be listening to this. And I'm just going to come round, but I'll start with you, Claire. If there was one takeaway bit of advice, practical and tangible, if I'm honest with you, that they could do right now, immediately, as soon as they switch off, what would you give to them? Claire, you first.
I think don't keep whatever's worrying you to yourself. If there's one thing you can do is tell one other person how you're feeling or what is going on for you. I think trying to be alone in all of this makes the problem harder to solve. I think if you can find someone, whether that's someone you know or someone who's anonymous, whether it's, you're ringing a particular hotline or it's a very close and dear friend to you, don't be on your own in this. Share it first, and then that will shift something.
Okay, yeah, talk it out, let it out, because if you're not talking it out, it's going inwards and it'll stay there until you do something about it. And I'm like that as well. A lot of the time, it may not fix things, but you will feel lighter. I don't know why. Something happens where if you just talk to somebody, you will feel lighter. So Claire, thank you. Dawn, what would you say to people, parents or young people, either way, from your perspective?
I'll just unmute myself because I do have a habit of talking. I might sound better when I'm on mute, actually. I loved what everybody else said, and part of me wishes I'd gone last because it was great listening to everybody. I think for me, I think Claire is spot on, that actually talking to somebody can be really helpful, and that can be the first step then to thinking about what other help you might be able to get. I think it's recognising that that people have experienced multiple grief reactions throughout the pandemic, not necessarily following a bereavement, but just because life has been so different and it's been hard to kind of navigate the unknown and the uncertainty. And what we've noticed in CHUMS is massive escalation in anxiety presentations from our referrals. And I think what I want to say is that it's okay not to be okay, and don't be too alarmed by that, and just if you're able to talk to somebody or able to access, say, a website like CHUMS and just look for some strategies there that might help you, then I think that is a good thing. It's been hard for everybody, and I think particularly for parents navigating the unknown with home education with younger children as well as working. It's just been difficult for everybody. I know that we have got resiliency within most of us. There is some resiliency there. We've just got to find it and work on it, and believe, and actually I know I'm not supposed to carry on talking, but I'm just going to go back to a point somebody else said, which I thought was really great, which was about almost the power that other people have over you, and that how that shouldn't influence how you are as a person. What I've been able to do over the last year with some colleagues is do a course run by something called the Conscious Leadership School, where they talk about outside-in thinking and how our mind is so powerful, but actually we control our own mind, and that we can choose to allow other people to infiltrate our mind or not. And it's called outside-in thinking. And what we should be thinking about, which is what the other guys have said around here today, which has been great, is we own ourselves, and we've got power within that we don't often realise is there. And once you begin to unleash a little bit and have a bit more confidence in your own your own thoughts and thinking, then actually that momentum can grow. I don't even know if that makes sense. It's been a really helpful experience for me doing that, you know, actually thinking, goodness, it sits with me. And actually, what Claire says about me is Claire's opinion. It's not necessarily my opinion of myself, and I'm going to stand firm and believe that for myself. Oh, I'm going off on one now, but anyway, you get the drift.
I know, and I think that there's a few things I picked up there. Was actually asking for help for me is a sign of strength. Absolutely, always has been. And there are people out there who will be there. And there's something intrinsic in us human beings. If someone asks for my help, I cannot help but help. Really, I would feel privileged if someone's actually come to me in the first place. Secondly, it's really interesting what you said about what Claire says. You know, ultimately that is noise. It's how we process that noise that comes out of someone's mouth. And it's neuro-linguistic programming. I think Dorian probably know a lot more than I do. And it's about how we process that in our heads. And the third bit, and you'll probably think I've gone mad here, I have an inner voice. It's not always my friend. And the language my inner voice uses is something I spend a lot of time on, and I reprocess that. So as an example, you know, I'm going to go for a run tonight when I go home. This morning, my inner voice was saying, not a good idea, not a good idea. It's going to go quiet. And then 15 minutes before I pull up, my inner voice will start to say, you're tired, you've had a long day, you don't really want to do this. And what if you get mugged? And what if you need to listen to it and then ignore it, really, and then move on. So there are three things that I picked up from both Claire and Dawn. So no, you weren't going off on one. I think I was really interested in what you were saying, Dawn. I could listen to you for a lot longer. We haven't got that much time, and I'm very conscious of Ameen and Edyta. So who am I going to go on? I think I'm going to go with Edyta. I mean, I'm going to leave you until the end. So Edyta, a final takeaway piece of a practical advice that you would give to young people listening, or parents, or anybody?
To anybody. So now, think from 0 to 10, where 0 is none and 10 is very much, how much you value yourself. Done? The average of people who are giving me the number is 5 or 6. And I'm asking, why not 10? And if you can imagine a little baby that is born to this world, how many points would you give to the baby? And everybody answered 10. Of course, 10 is a new baby. You need the strength. You need the power to grow and learn. So I want you to imagine that you have been that little baby once, and you deserve 10 as well, or maybe even 20. If you're going through a hard time, give it more, never give less.
Thank you. Yeah, it should be 10 all the way through. You know, I think some of my kids were babies. I don't know if I'd give them a 10 if I'm honest. But anyway, that's a different, maybe a different podcast altogether. But thank you. Why not 10? You know, because there'll be enough people giving you 0 all on their own. So if you can't give yourself 10, who on earth is going to give you 10? Thank you, Edyta. I mean, no pressure, mate, but the last word is going to go with you then. So what is your pearl of wisdom based on all that you have heard?
So my advice to all of the wonderful listeners out there would be to implement self-love and self-care into your life. And these two terms go hand in hand, seeing as caring for yourself ultimately leads to loving yourself. This could be accomplished by looking after yourself and your surroundings. It could be as simple as literally getting a haircut, bathing regularly, as mentioned earlier, or even just cleaning a room. So it's just the little things that lead to a big change. Never underestimate the power and impact of showing yourself some TLC, tender loving care.
Brilliant bit of advice. And yes, I think listeners, just do one thing, whatever that one thing is, do it today. Really, just to move from that thought to action and do it. You will feel better for it, and don't lose that bit of advice that we gave. Love yourself, athletes, that are take into account what people say, but they don't define you in terms of who you are as in the individual that you are. Any final words? I'm conscious of the time, but is there any burning thing that people want to share before I close us down?
I guess I would just like to say, you know, to remember that the power that you give to somebody else when you ask for help, because actually they may need help themselves, and you might be giving them permission to share something with you, and that can be really helpful, just to get that peer support.
Brilliant, Dawn. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time, as with Edyta, Claire, and Ameen. Thank you to Anissa for producing all of this. Really appreciated. Guys, do your normal stuff. I sort of say like, press like. The last one had the most popular number of likes, so we want to beat the last podcast. Not that we are. Well, I'm competing with myself here. I don't even know why I said that, but just keep on giving us feedback, folks. If there's any topics, if you want to be a guest on the next show, drop us a message, and we look forward to the next podcast. Take care. Have a wonderful next few days and love yourselves, folks. Take care. Bye bye.